we're hanging out. I mean, just in case this is a bloopers episode, hanging out trying to figure out what the hell to talk about today.
Yeah.
Because
what are some things that we've seen in the shop lately? A lot of transformation. There's been a lot of transformation lately.
Personally and professionally, yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like during the busy season, it's a little bit trickier to notice all the things.
There's been a lot of questions around how to connect with guides.
Okay. That might be a good one today, then.
Yeah. So I've been asked by 2 different clients.
Yeah.
And they are just like starting out. So maybe we could chat about that and see.
Okay.
If they want to, their questions were like, how do they know who their guides are? How do they talk to them? How do they work?
And so that's tricky because my first thing I go to is the Julia Cannon book, Soul Speak, because she, and we've mentioned this, I think, before, in that book, she very specifically mentions that you'll hear your guides on one side versus your internal dialogue, maybe louder on a different side.
Okay.
And so I tell them, okay, go listen to this book, go read that book, and then come back and we'll talk again, right? Do you want to share yours, or do you want me to share first?
You can go.
So, I don't see it any different asking for help or connecting than as if you were in my space and I needed you to help with something. Does that make sense? So, okay. So not physical things, right? Because like, okay, moving the table, that would be me asking you to physically help me move something.
Yeah.
But if I'm setting up a new altar, and I needed help, if you were here to help me, or to offer guidance, I'd be saying, hey, Karlie, what about this? Right? Okay. So if I'm seeking information for guides or angels or whatever you want to call them, I would be like, hey, give me some information on this, right? Send me a download, send me a symbol, send me something that offers guidance, right?
Yeah.
So I guess it's, some of the stuff is hard to teach.
Yeah.
Because it's so intuitive.
Yeah. I think the simplest way to tell people to try to connect is stop trying.
Oh yeah, it's not supposed to be hard.
It's not supposed to be hard, it's not supposed to be complicated. And as you go through your journey and you slowly start letting that ego down, that has been a whole thing lately too. You let your ego down, that heightens your vibration, that heightens your intuition and your connection to your higher self.
So apparently neither of us can speak.
No, today has been a very bad word day, so just but once you have that higher connection and you stop having all of the randomness that fills your mind, that's when you start picking up on the signs.
Some of those more subtle keys. There was one lady, she's like, gosh, something's wrong with me, my ears. I'm like, nothing's wrong with you. And one of the most simple things you can say is I hear you, and then I'm paying attention, right? And then take a moment, take a couple breaths to like, shut the fuck up and pay attention, for language, I know. I felt like my dad was yelling at me just then. Yeah, it's not supposed to be hard. And I feel like a lot of that comes with the TikTok kind of side of things, is that, and we have mentioned that that's a form of gatekeeping too, is to make things so difficult that people can't understand.
Yeah, like you're not supposed to have to do ritual every time you want to, work with your guides. Like, they're around you all the time, for one. And two, you can talk to them in daily life, like we're talking right now in daily life. They're with you regardless of what the fuck you're doing.
Yeah.
So when you want to, first and foremost, like when you want to try to figure out who they are, meditate on it. Be mindful in the moment. See what downloads come through. They'll tell you who they are.
So during mediumship, I was going to say unsolicited, but that's not quite accurate because I was open to the conversation. But during some of those conversations, I realized who, more so ancestors, right? Like my mom's grandma on my dad's side. Or, I'm sorry, my mom's grandmother on her dad's side came through as Mammy. Like, we didn't really know her any other way. And even though we only met a handful of times, like, when we did meet, it set really strong with me. Like, from then on, even before she'd passed, like, there was always that sense of guidance there, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, like she was there leaving little breadcrumbs.
Nuggets.
And working with your guides and getting those downloads are going to look different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I feel like it's kind of hard for people to grasp the concept of like how easy it is.
Yeah.
Because they're doing research based on other people's perspectives of experiences. So for example, our clear sometimes our gifts are like completely different.
Yeah.
Right? So when you experience your mediumship or, your downloads, certainly 180 from what I do, so you are able to see things and hear things where I just
smell things.
You can smell things,
That's not always a favorite. But anyway, sorry, squirrel.
The only, interesting enough, the only time I've ever smelled anything was for Daniel's grandmother that passed early in our relationship. So I didn't really know her too well, but from her reading that him and I both had separately, but from the same person.
Gotcha.
We found out she's just nosy.
Okay, fair enough.
She's just nosy.
So, even with just nosiness, like, she's still there and she's still paying attention. So, it felt important just now, and I think this is going to sit different with you because it's not, I don't think it's clicked yet because it just clicked for me, is that it's not always a message or a download or a verbal, whatever, but that gut sense that maybe I shouldn't do this, or maybe I should do this way.
That's how my gifts work. So that's how I am all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm over the last, we're in the 9th month now. Freaking Christ.
Right. Thankfully, we're not mad about it.
No, it's just crazy to think about that.
Which day out is in 26 days. In that. Okay, we'll come back to that later.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
new nervous.
Yeah.
So you guys are going to hear this later, but just for timestamp awareness, this has been recorded on September 1st.
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
So anyway, over the last 9 months, I've had a huge shift in my journey, right? And like things are just one explosion after the other, I feel like, and it's hard to keep up. But in this 9 months, I've been realizing that gut, it's not just a gut feeling that I thought was just a gut feeling. It's actually like, some of these thoughts aren't even my thoughts, y'all. Like, there is no way I've spent my whole life being this unhinged. Like, in a lot of stuff. And I'm slowly, like, come to the realization, since January till now, that no, those really are not my thoughts. Those literally are coming from spirits and guides and, like,
the ether of the unknown.
Yeah.
And some known.
Yeah, it's, like, crazy. It's like, why would I think that? Oh, because it's not mine. And it's interesting because I don't see things and I don't hear things, but I have that sense of knowing.
Yes,
because I am starting to visualize. So that's a whole nother topic. But for the sake of this, I can sense the guides, if that makes sense. I can they never feel like they're ever in front of me. I can sense them behind me. Like, how you, in our human existence, how if somebody's behind us and you can just sense that feeling, that's what I get. Like, I can physically feel them behind me. And those thoughts that I get, those downloads that I get, they like describe what they want me to see. So like I had a reading just this morning and her guides were showing me everything in like cartoon ways. And I was like, you're funny, okay. There was like 3 of them, I think, 3 or 4 of them. But it was almost like how you would imagine. Do you remember that Cartoon Network show, Ed, Ed, and Eddie? That. Okay. That is how her guides were presenting.
Like behaving.
And like behaving and presenting what they wanted me to see of her. And the message of her. Like they were the message was a cartoon. Like, I don't know. It was so weird. And then I've had guides where they are very, there was this one. It was like a bird man. And he was very like stoic and just still. And he would watch and he towered. It was so weird. But then
isn't that iconic of Like the plague doctors?
Kind
Okay,
of.
Gotcha.
Kind of. But he was very green.
Okay.
He was very green.
Now, that green, is that something you knew? Did you see that green? Because that's been a recent conversation, too. When I had asked you a question, like, why did you ask me that? I'm like, the fuck if I know, I just work here, right?
No, so that was months ago.
Okay.
That was months ago. But how I know it's green is, like, they describe it. It's almost like how somebody would explain in very detail to, like, a blind person.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
It's so weird. I don't know how else to describe that.
So, no, I get that. Because this is a new conversation for us, too. Mm-hmm. First, I want to rewind about the thing that just clicked to me when it comes to your guides. Quite recently, there's been things that Karlie really wants to fucking do. And no matter how hard you try, that is not going to happen. It's just not an option. And you are often stubborn, as am I. And you're like, oh no, I'm just going to try one more time. Yeah. But one more time turns into like another hour, right? Yeah. So I'm wondering, like, are they like wanting to beat you? You know,
yeah.
And the fact that, and sometimes with myself, like I'm fumbling or fidgety or I just can't hold on to things. It's probably not supposed to happen. And you probably already been given, you know, all those opportunities to put that down and to walk away and come back later. Yeah. Well, we probably just weren't listening. Right. Or we weren't aware.
Or on the other side of that is my human self doesn't give too much thought about things when my guides are screaming them at me. Yeah. So, like, the tuning forks. Never gave that a thought, ever. Like, yeah, cool concept, but it's never been an interest. And now, all of a sudden, thank you, Matt. So, that's, again, a whole nother topic, too. But, when they want you to listen, like you said, shit's not going to go your way. And then when you finally listen, shit aligns. It's fucking cool. Yeah. Yeah.
And now I forgot what the second topic I was gonna, because I wanted to rewind and go back to that one.
Yeah.
So maybe to come back, maybe it won't. That's okay too. Yeah. Do you remember?
I wasn't in your head in that moment.
In that moment. But it's just kind of odd to watch things pan out. Yeah. And then with our clients too, remembering that it takes time for the whole picture to be revealed or for these nuggets to make sense. We're humans too, right? We are, in a way, that was a weird concept, in a way, and I do remember what it was. Okay, hold on. One thing at a time, please. So maybe I'm being bombarded right now, who knows? But in a way, we are the clients, or we are the students of this universal energy work, or this universal school of Earth, right? And so it sometimes takes time for us to click. A client that we saw 2 years ago, or that I started seeing 2 years ago, a name that had come up just made sense this weekend.
Oh yeah, and it didn't even make sense to her. So a little preface, we're not going to say names, but this client had started getting Reiki sessions, and in 3 of those sessions, a specific name kept coming up, and it made no sense. And then she booked a completely different appointment with us. It wasn't even around energy work. We're just chit-chatting about the collective, and it came to her who the name was. Out of just conversation, it just finally clicked why if she was able to learn what it was in that moment instead of when it first and the second and the third time it came
it would have made life easier 2 years ago, but that's none of my business apparently. And that's important to remember too, that, you know, sometimes other people's journey isn't any of our business. Okay, so before I forget again, the description, the very detailed descriptions, right? So I get that, right? It just never made sense to share because I thought it was a way that I was sorting through what was going on. But oftentimes, especially with visuals, and that's kind of what you're talking about too. Like, for example, I had the visual that made no sense. Well, I had sensations first that this person was on water, right? On water. And then I kept asking, right? And then it was mentioned that it was a boat. I was like, okay, well, that helps, but that's still, you know, that makes a little bit of sense. But the scene I had to keep asking for descriptions. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I wanted to slightly use the verbiage around an inner dialogue.
Okay.
Because it kind of sort of is an inner, like, is it their inner dialogue of their subconscious? I don't know.
I almost
yeah.
want to think it's your higher self connecting to other things. And that's why you have the inner dialogue in your head.
Of the sorting of pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So the concept that perhaps that higher awareness or that higher consciousness is connecting to their subconscious and helping you describe these pieces of things. Because it ended up that she was on a lake and that there truly was this massive mountain range, which to me didn't make sense because I've never seen that, right?
Yeah.
How there could be a lake within this massive mountain range. But it's like I kept getting pieces of situations, and I'm like,
so that is so interesting that you're describing this, and it has to do with the lake. Because the Reiki session, my last Reiki session that I just had with a client, I kept seeing a body of water. And it was almost like they wanted me to see it from an aerial view. Mm-hmm. So I was like over it and I was like looking down. And all of a sudden, like this black hole shows up. And I'm like, why the fuck am I seeing a black hole? And I'm like, it doesn't make sense that that's a black hole because there's stuff going to it. Like it was a black hole inside of the lake. Like, you could see the rigid outline of the lake and then just a circle of a black hole. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, that doesn't make sense. Like, why is this a black hole?
Okay, so that's the kind of dialogue, yeah.
And then I hear, no, it's an island. And I'm like,
so the black hole is an island, not a black hole.
Yeah. Okay. And I'm like, okay, well, that kind of makes sense.
That kind of helps with it.
Yeah. And so, like, then it kept, like, describing to me, like, what I'm supposed to be seeing because obviously, our human selves are trying to see it for what it is, not what it's supposed to be.
Based on what our life experiences may be.
Yeah, and I think that's why we have the inner dialogue of, like, our human self is trying to understand what our higher self is showing. Or, like, what the guides are showing us.
So it's almost like playing charades.
Yeah, fuckers.
But
can it be easier?
I feel that that's why it's a practice.
Yeah, so interesting. Yeah. Anyway, so I have a question for you. How do you work with your guides, or do you just let them show up whenever?
So it truly feels like it is a calmer, quieter, for the most part, calmer, quieter, intuitive kind of process, right? Except for, like earlier when I said, drop the F-bomb, and I kind of heard language, and then that would be something that my dad would have said, right? It was like, okay, that was unnecessary, watch your mouth, right?
Yeah.
But then it's a simple thing. It's like in the kitchen, and you're putting in spices, and you're like, I don't know why I'm doing this, or, how much I'm supposed to use. And then you're just, like, kind of told to stop, right? Like, that's enough. Or taste it, Those gentle, sometimes not so gentle, situations, if that makes sense. Yeah. So, my altar at home has pieces of ancestry on it. Okay. And so I feel like they're constantly being called in when I activate my altar, if that, maybe that helps someone too. There was something else and I don't remember.
Yeah, I was just told to also ask about deity work, or like worshiping deities.
So because my roots are in the Appalachian, right, and that's very much tied to the spirits of the hills and the ancestors and the Native Americans and the mixed, and that's a different conversation around the luncheons, the mixed melting pot of practices where there's some voodoo and hoodoo and all of those things. There wasn't really, there wasn't really the practice around deities, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Do some of them still kind of sit with me in a certain way? Absolutely. Yeah. Like I love the power of Athena, and I'm very pulled to some of the Greek mythology. Does that help? Yeah. But as far as like maybe in your practice where you're pulled to like Odin, actually Freya even sits with me in her protective ways, you know.
So interesting. So I'll get to why I asked that in just a second. But not early on in my practice, but up until recently in my practice, I would closely work with like Odin, Heimdall, Tyr, and Freya because they have a lot to do with the runes and cedar work, which that's again another topic. What is cedar work?
Who's taking notes? Remind us of these
somebody
side quests later on.
Gary,
right?
have you been listening? So where are they going? Oh, so I recently had a reading, and the reader had kind of smiled a little bit and cocked their head and go, "You work with a lot of the Norse deities," and I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Freya?" And I go, "Yeah." He kind of chuckles again and goes, "She wants you to stop. If you want to, you can, but she's telling me that you really only need her. She can do all the things you need." I was like, and since I've done that, there's been a huge shift in my practice, a huge shift in my work. Now I'm going to tie in where I was going if I asked the question of you, in my practice, in my viewpoint, so do what you want in your practice and whatever. That's yours. It doesn't matter to me, right? Anyway, so in my practice, I believe that deities are no more special than us. They aren't here to worship in a sense of they are better than us. Especially in Norse mythology, we believe our gods are like humans. They just have clear gifts that they have honed on like immensely, right? And they have powers and influences that can help influence other things. So when you work with them, you're not working with them in a sense of like you're worshiping them because
they're not gods. They're not the greater good.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they are greater good, but they're not.
They're not better.
So that makes sense.
Yeah. So when I work with her, I'm working with her almost as a guide, as a mentor, as a, hey, help me with this. And I will honor you as best I can, right? So when you think of working with deities and working with your gods, it's a tool, it's a resource, it's a mentor, it's...
And I think it's all the same, you know? I believe sometimes maybe individuals don't know their ancestors. And even though there's pieces of my ancestors that I don't really know, but the knowledge, the wisdom, it's not knowledge, it's wisdom. The wisdom is still there. The wisdom is still inherited. But for those situations where people maybe not know their heritage, I feel like having a deity to help in that guidance is important.
Oh, absolutely. And sometimes when you resonate with a path or resonate with a deity, because you don't even have to have a specific path or follow that path of worship to work with the deity. Maybe you just represent or resonate with who they represent. Right? So we have a client that doesn't necessarily fit the mold of a specific path, but she resonates with the archetype of the goddess of the hunt.
Okay.
So, and there's 3 different archetypes and 3 different paths. How do you pick one? If you resonate with it all. You know what I mean? So
I feel like that's kind of the weird thing about religion. Like, religion is that there's different denominations. We've had to talk about that with someone else. But the base of it all is very similar.
Oh, absolutely.
And that makes it a little tricky.
Yeah.
So,
I guess in short, if you want to work with your guy, start paying attention. Be mindful. Trust that what you are thinking is meant to be thought.
Or what you're just doing.
Yeah.
So I won't go into detail because I feel like some of the practice is meant to be private. But there was an activity, almost like you're fidgeting with your ring there, right? There was an activity or practice that I'm just fond of. I had no idea it was a thing until I'm going back and listening to books again, right? And so, I mean, That's how the whole practice of this came about. It's like learning, like, oh shit, these things have names. And these things, you're not the first one to experience these things. You're not the first one to do those things.
Yeah.
And just trusting the process. And, you know, I guess it would be like in one of those reality shows where you're being told by a puppeteer, like, what to do.
Yeah.
And you don't know why the hell they're telling you to do that, but you just do it anyway. I mean, I feel like, excuse me, that's a situation sometimes. I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this thing, you know, or whatever it might be.
That's how I felt when I was told to do the tuning forks.
Yeah.
As soon as I grabbed them, I felt like somebody stepped into my body and was controlling it.
So that was another conversation I wanted to mention, ask you about, or have a conversation with you about. So, being familiar with your guides, I want to share how it feels when someone else's guides show up and when they kind of take over a session.
Okay.
So it's quite odd as it happens because it's part of the practice where things get cold, even if it's just for a moment. But it's almost
You're talking
like
specifically around Reiki.
Yeah,
So,
around Reiki.
Sorry. Context, people. Context.
Squirrel. Thanks, Karlie. So like in Reiki, when someone else's guides are coming through, it's almost like I want to do certain actions, right? But then when I can feel them step into me, I get cold from my feet up.
Really?
Like it feels like, I don't know, like this is me, and the person's kind of like rolling into me. And this weekend, when it was happening to someone at Raw's Opera House, so like I can feel this coldness, but it's not my whole body coldness. And I ask, I'm like, so did it start at your feet? And they confirmed yes. I'm like, where did it stop? And they confirmed, you know, just over abdomen height. I'm like, could that be the spirit of someone small, like a child, stepping into you? And that really resonated with them. Knowing when other people show up, if it's not just because it's often a scent or a name saying, hey, I'm here, but then that really, it's not unsettling to me anymore, but when it first started happening, I was like, whoa, is that right?
Yeah.
How other people's guides are showing up. So don't forget that when you're getting these downloads or these messages, that they may not all be yours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They would be so that's how I experience, not so much them stepping into me, but I experience people's guides when I do their rune readings, whether I want them there or not, they just show up, and I guess it's just part of my work. I don't know.
And that's where I was setting boundaries too. It's not asking for guidance, but reminding those that may not be important to the message that they don't. They don't show up.
No. Now, instead of just starting a full of runes, now I sit there and do like a little opening ceremony, prayer thing in my head mostly. It's mostly around when I'm kind of waking my runes up. But I do set intention with like, hey, I'm only allowing people in to have a message for the greater good for the person. You know, like I don't just hey anyone. You know.
Yeah.
Because there's a place and time for that. But yeah.
Like Raw's Opera House.
Yeah. But it took me actually having a reading with somebody else to kind of adopt that practice from them, because it never dawned on me that, oh my gosh, readings are really no different than Reiki. Like you have to have a sacred space. You have to have closing and disconnecting and like all the things. It's not just hey, let's
do
play.
this shit, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's a good point. And then oftentimes, so that's something that's kind of tricky to teach sometimes, because even that for me is intuitive. Like when you watch me do the chakra scans, you know, I take a moment and I take a couple deep breaths, and then I come to stillness and drop my head, and then that's initiation. That's like, okay, now we're going to do this thing, right? And then the detachment or the closing isn't, like you said, it's not always verbal. It's just like, you know, well, thank you for time and space, and like, okay, that's your energy, this is mine. Yeah. It's neat how the pieces align. Sometimes even without us talking about them.
Yeah. So be mindful, check in with yourself, put in the work, I remember the work is done in the in between, not so much in the action of stuff. I know that when we have sessions, we expect, our human self expects something profound, but sometimes the profound comes after the fact. So start with
more often than not.
Yeah. So start
unless the other person is already quite practiced.
Yes.
You know, it's one of the Reiki sessions I had. He was quite practiced, and so he already knew. You know, like when people would show up, he's like, okay, he would have that initiate the conversation with them.
Yeah.
At that time, embracing the awareness that someone was showing up for him. So that was kind of
That's interesting.
Yes, it is Monday.
I don't know.
And so it's a true Monday. It's not just our work Monday. That's tomorrow and Wednesday.
I have been working. I haven't had a day off yet. Like I worked before we went to Ross. I had an appointment yesterday. An appointment this morning.
Yeah.
Tomorrow is my rest day. It's probably my baby.
Snuggles.
Yeah.
So you think that's it for this one?
Yeah.
Short and sweet and to the point, the best we can on a Monday.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll see you next time.